Hey there, YouTubers! This is Kevin from Survivor Super Fun Time Show, and this week was Survivor 48, Episode 6. This one is admittedly, candidly, not one that I felt very much during. This was not one of my favorite episodes of the season, mainly because I didn't think it was a particularly interesting boot. I kind of predicted that would happen. I predicted it would win the immunity challenge, and I predicted that it would be a merge. So everything kind of went according to plan, which is cool. Really boosted my ego quite a bit as far as being a fan and a predictor of the series, but otherwise kind of a boring episode. However, I think there's definitely things to talk about, and I'd like to talk about with you now. But before we do that, make sure to hit the subscribe button to the Survivor Super Fun Time Show. We have some awesome stuff coming up, including the next episode of Survivor 48. We're going to be recapping with Sushmi from Survivor 47. She's going to be here talking about the next episode with myself, and I should have another recap episode with Cassidy, James, and Lindsay from Survivor 43 coming up in the next week or two. It's going to be super exciting. We love to talk shit. But getting into the episode, I mean, the last episode, Bianca got voted out without having a vote. And Say was on the outside, didn't know. Mitch didn't know either. And Say comes back and now knows Cedric once again has lied to her, or at least not told her what's going on. And Say makes it very clear, Cedric, we are not working together. I cannot trust you. You're a big fat liar. Get your head out of your ass doctor, and maybe one day we can. But right now, don't trust you at all. I feel for Say in that moment. And it's interesting because Say is the most electrifying player this season up to this point. And it bamboozles me to even think that anyone could not appreciate what Say has done for the show. Whether or not you're a huge fan of her personally or how you would play the game, different story. But from entertainment standpoint, there's no way she should go anywhere. I hope she's around forever and ever and ever. And she had another awesome moment or two this episode we get to talk about. Past the Siva controversy of that tribal council, all three tribes, each one of them, they get that letter. They say, drop your buffs. And now we're going to all go to the Loggy tribe. And they go to Loggy. They all do the hugs, the smiles, the kisses, the merge that we all assume is coming. They also get a letter that says, there's an advantage on your beach because there's going to be a challenge tomorrow. So everyone, right now, go run around and find it, which is really fun. I like sometimes when they scatter. Sometimes I think it doesn't hit because Jeff Probst gets a little too crazy with how he designs stuff. But this time it did, and it's really mainly because Charity, who was the person I assumed would go this episode, and I did not want to see get the advantage, she was about to get it, and all of a sudden, Say came out of nowhere. It was like a lion hopping on a gazelle during a National Geographic documentary. It was wonderful. But because she's wearing green and the jungle's green, and she came from the other direction, it looks like Say literally came out of nowhere to snatch this advantage, and she got it. And that advantage ended up being huge in the immunity challenge. Did she win? No, didn't think she would. But regardless, it was really fun because I'm sure people at home were just like, damn it, why did Say get it? She's the only one I didn't want to see get it. And then she got it. It was wonderful. It was like I was back in season 47 seeing Rome get advantages. That, and I'm sure that drove everyone nuts. So anyway, they get to the challenge, and you find out that the advantage that Say had was it was in two stages, the challenge itself. The first one, you get split into two teams. You have to go through this big obstacle course, and the team that wins gets to go onto an individual phase where they'll basically hold a ball up on a post. And Say, with that advantage, gets to skip the first part. She doesn't have to be a part of the team. And that also means she gets a guaranteed merge feast, which is awesome, and she gets to take part in the individual portion. Now, the team that starred like Camilla and David and Kyle and Star, etc., they won that challenge, and they got to go to the individual portion, where Say got to join them. She was nice and fresh. Say, however, she lost the challenge. David looked like possibly he was going to win, lost the challenge. And Star, I hate to do this, but Star was the star of the episode in many ways. Star killed it. It got down to a final two of Star and Kyle. And truthfully, before it started, I said, I'm pretty sure Kyle's going to win this one. I just feel it down in my bones. And I was right. Kyle won the challenge. He became the first winner of the individual immunity necklace in Survivor 48. And funny enough, the winner of the first individual immunity necklace of Survivor 47 was also Kyle. Let's see if this Kyle is going to break an immunity record, though. Kyle last season came this close, but didn't quite happen. And this outcome made me personally very happy because I assumed Charity would go. I want Charity to go. And I like when Say is in contention because I think everyone always wants to throw Say's name out. And Charity was a bit on the hot seat this episode in general because she came on there and, she was there for when Eva, introduced that she had autism to everyone. She was there for the idol being found. And she was really working on Star saying, hey, maybe we should try to get rid of Eva. And you should try to get your idol back from Eva. Okay, it's your idol. You get it back. Have it your way. And Star immediately tattled on her and told Eva. And now Eva, of course, is like, Charity, like, I don't get social cues that well, but I just think Charity's fake. And I have to say, as a viewer, I'm like, I understand what you're saying. I get it. I feel the same thing. It doesn't feel authentic. But to be fair, editors edit it in a certain way where maybe we're supposed to feel that she's not totally authentic in how she deals with people. But Mitch loves her, and Mitch seems like a great guy, so I don't know. But we do know that for some reason, almost all of Siva did not really care for Charity that much. The discussion there, it was like, okay, do we get rid of Eva, the openly autistic girl who now has an idol who's really close to Joe? And I guess like also as part of this meat tray alliance that David and Joe have been talking about. Because there's a side scene where David and Joe talk to each other first about their consumption of milk, because God damn it, we cannot go an episode without talking about milk and David. I like David. He's a nice guy, but why does he get a scene every episode? Is he going to win? Is he actually going to win this season? That's what it feels like at this point, because like logically I'm like, no, he's not going to win. But then every episode, the editors give him something big. Even if it's milk, they give it to him. So part of the discussion with Joe and David about the milk is they eventually go like, you know what? No meat shields this season. It's going to be straight up. If you're smart, if you're good at puzzles, if you're sneaky, if you're strategizing, if you have more than 5, 10, 15 brain cells, you're out of here, buddy, because we are not going to deal with that. Obviously, I'm joking around because I love Joe and I think he's great and I think he may win the game. It did seem naive, though, because when you have Joe and David talking about, like, we're going to get all the strong people together, Kyle and Joe and David and Eva, like, we're all going to get together and we're not going to have any strategizing, no backstabbing. We're going to bring it all the way back to old school where there's just pure loyalty and no throat cutting. It seemed very naive and very silly. And note, that plan only comes up among the people who are, one, in the majority, and two, bros. Like, the genesis of the plan came from David, the editor's favorite person, I guess. And it's very obvious and very clear to me that it was a plan that was born from somebody who has not gone to tribal council yet. That is not a plan that should be created on like day 13. It's a plan of somebody who creates it on day 1 when you're still trying to get to know people. You're masking your insanity from the rest of the tribe, and you've never touched tribal council. This is where I'm like, the naivete from David is shining through to such an incredible degree. He hasn't lost anything yet. Nothing has not gone his way in the game so far. So I think that strategy is silly. I think it sounds great for somebody who needs a lot of shields to keep other shields around. But if it actually works out, I will be stunned. I will look at everyone and say, how did you let it happen? Because I don't think this is a particularly hard thing to bust up in the new era, but you never know. So with that said, it looks like the conversations are kind of back and forth for a long time. Is it going to be Say that's voted out? Because a lot of people don't really like Say very much. Or is it going to be Charity, another person that people don't really like all that much? And you get the tribal council and, the tension's back and forth in many different ways. No one seems to be on either of these two sides for the most part. Even their closest allies are not really their allies. Like Cedric and Mary aren't really with Say. I mean, seeing Mary meet up with Say and reunite at Loggy Beach, it was just like, Say was super excited to put everything in the past and hang out. Mary was like, yeah, okay. It's like an abusive ex. Like you have very different memories of that relationship. And at the vote, it was super interesting because, the votes are read. It eventually gets to a point where it's like 5-5. And the final tipping point is Charity goes home over Say. And there was a stray vote from Say on Cedric, which I don't fully understand. Maybe she was worried about an idol to some degree. I thought that was super interesting. But the votes, when I saw them at the end, I was intrigued because there must have been a bigger concocted plan that I wasn't aware of. Because if you look, obviously Joe and Eva are like this. They're not going anywhere. They're a tight alliance. Eva actually voted for Say, but then Joe voted for Charity. So I'm like, why would they split votes if they're feeling good about each other? So there must have been a bigger plan we'll find out about in next episode that right now isn't clear to me. So Charity goes. I'm not super sad about it. She was somebody that I think maybe had a lot of potential and probably is pretty cool. It just didn't manifest. For some reason, it's one of those things where like everybody, if they don't like a player, then they probably weren't very likable. I hate to say that because like Survivor 45, I love Bruce. I've met Bruce. I like Bruce a lot. And in the show, I was like, what did he do that's really that annoying? But the problem is when everybody's saying it, you go like, all right, well, maybe he was overbearing at the time. Same thing with Venus in Survivor 46. People didn't really like her very much. It makes sense. Same thing with Rome in 47. There's always got to be one, I guess, and it looks like it's you, Charity. And a very interesting, like, parting bit of information that came out of the post-game interview from Charity after the episode was over. She was asked in Entertainment Weekly, said, you know, like, what do you think, what happened? Why, when you threw Eva's name out there, what really went down with the rest of the castaways? And paraphrasing, Charity said that Eva, she believes that after coming out and telling everyone about her autism, other people were afraid to vote her out because of her autism, which is really interesting and I think kind of a hot take. And mind you, it's all about the perspective of the narrator. Charity's opinion is that's what it was. They didn't want to vote Eva out because of that. It had nothing to do with Charity. That's what I'm reading from it. However, before this episode aired, after last week's, when they had the beautiful moment with Joe and Eva, and then Eva getting the immunity idol, and everyone seeming very happy for Eva, I said to myself, and I actually talked to a few former castaways, I said, so who's going to have the big balls to go after the openly sweet, autistic, beautiful girl with an immunity idol that is also allies with a really awesome, like, fire captain like Joe? Who's going to have the balls to do that now? Because how do I openly feel great about going like, all right, the girl that we are all crying over, we need to get her out. I mean, like, you know, because there's a human part where you're like, I don't want her to go. But then you're in the game, you're like, she got to go. And who's going to be the one to do it? It sounds like Charity was one of the ones who was willing to do it. But it seems like the rest of the tribe was more along the lines of thinking what I was saying. So that was very interesting, I think, how it played out, if that's indeed how it played out. Now, the castaways I've spoken to about it, they've said, here's the deal, like all those things are accurate, but eventually they're just going to make up other reasons. Like whether or not she has that situation going on where, you know, she is on the spectrum and maybe that messes with the ability to read social cues. So there's a bit of a disadvantage in a way. It doesn't matter. In the end, they're going to find another reason to say that Eva needs to go that's completely separate than all of those things, and she's going to go. And it's where it's really fun to talk to Survivor New Era castaways because they're like, oh, I would vote her out. No problem. No problem. It could be just talking shit, but I believe it, man. These are gamers. And I have to give major shout out to Star. I don't know what it is, but like editors decided to let us know that Star exists in the game now. I don't know why. I mean, in my preseason rankings, I said that Star would probably be too big of a character right away. And so I thought she would probably go early. And based on her edit for the first 5-6 episodes, I thought, yes, she's still going to go early, like at mergatory or, you know, right before the merge. Not the case. This episode, she's great. I mean, how can you not watch all of her stuff and think that she isn't really fun and really uplifting and inspiring? I mean, is she the greatest at the game? She's probably not going to be. Honestly, straight up. But that's okay. Some of my favorite players of all time aren't overly great at the game. Keith Now is one of the best examples from Survivor San Juan del Sur. Love that guy. Was he great at the game? No. Did I want him to ever leave the TV screen? No. And I hope that is the case with Star, because Star seems like, you know, she is a competitor and she has really good relationships now at this point. But I'm not sure she's ever going to be a strategic threat to win the game. And that's okay. We have a lot of those already. We have Camilla. We have Kyle. We have Shaheen. David, I guess, sort of. I mean, we have a lot of really good people that potentially can take this. So I just got to give Star her flowers because I think she had an awesome episode, and I'm glad everyone could see how really cool she is. She's the super fun player of the week, along with Say, because Say coming out of there, out of nowhere, and snatching that advantage, really fun. She makes me laugh every single week, and Star was so positive and uplifting. Absolutely have to give them co-captaincy on this one. And speaking of players that I think could win the game, I mean, at this point, just to give you kind of my update, because preseason I said there's a few people that I think could win this game. And thankfully, I feel very smart about it. I said someone like Joe, someone like Mary, someone like Camilla and Kyle. And truthfully, those four are kind of my top ones, I think, at this point. Although I've shaken on Joe. I don't see it happening anymore. But he's up there. It could happen, right? I think Say's going to get pretty far, despite, you know, the interest of a lot of people. Or she's going to go out next vote. I'm not sure, because next episode looks like the double tribal council. So it could go really poorly. Someone that I thought maybe would go a little bit further, and maybe he will still on pure luck, is Mitch. Mitch is someone in preseason I was like, oh, I think he's going to do great. He seems to be really bright. We've seen his challenge prowess at this point. But the problem is he's had 2 tribal councils in a row. He's only 2. And he's been practically clueless in both of them. He didn't know who was going to go home both times. So you have to ask yourself, how plugged in is he really? Like, are we on the path of getting someone who can rebound in the game and become a titan, like an Emily Flippin? Or are we getting a Jake O'Kane, who somehow just stumbles their way through, always being a prime target, but they do get to the end, but they're not a real threat? And I hope that's not the case. I hope he makes it far, but I hope it's based on merit and not from stumbling through. So Mitch, I hope he absolutely picks it up in the near future. And I cannot leave this recap without mentioning, boy, what a tough go of it by Cedric this past episode. Mitch basically dragging him up that wall so he can flop on the deck like a fish. Kind of remind me of Brandon in Survivor 45 in episode 1. Pretty wild for Cedric. He's been a bigger character than I thought he would be. Voting people out with votes, without votes. It's been a fun ride for Cedric. Who would have known? And also, I want to give a quick shout out to friends of mine on the Survivor Shot Pod. There's some awesome folks. They're kind of smaller podcasters, kind of like myself, who just love to yap about the game, and just want to give them a quick shout out on this channel. Go listen to them. But plenty to go on from this game moving forward. Really excited to see where it goes. For right now, I think we have a lot of cool stuff we can look forward to. I'm personally rooting for Kyle, Camilla, and Mary, and Joe, and we'll see how it shapes up from there. Eva is a huge target with her idol, and I think David should be a huge target too. But we'll see you next episode when I recap it with Susie Q, where we talk about what's going on in the game moving forward. Otherwise, hope you have an amazing day, everyone. You take care.